Greetings. We welcome you in the name of Jesus Christ to the Book of Acts continued here at Cloverdale Bible Way. And this morning, as a part of this series, we have Sister Anno sitting here, student from Simon Fraser University. A blessing. She's been quite a blessing to the church here at Cloverdale since she's arrived, and her life and testimony, I'm sure, will be a blessing to you this morning. So we'd like to welcome you, Sister Anno, to this, to glorify God through what God has been doing through His Holy Spirit. And we need to maybe let the audience and those that are listening know about yourself.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me about yourself and how the Lord led you here?
Okay, so when I finished my high school, I didn't really know where I should go to school, and all my friends were like, oh, we're going to South Africa, we're going this place, we're going this place. But I didn't really have a plan. And so I was just sitting at home for almost 9 months, and then my dad kept asking me, what's your plan, what's your plan? Then one day it so happened that I had visited my aunt, and then my aunt was like, we should go to an agency and ask them about universities.
Okay.
But I had carried my papers that day.
So what town in Zimbabwe?
Well, I came from a very small town called Shurugwi.
Yes.
And then I had visited my aunt in Harare, which is the capital city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we went to the agency. We got there, and then they showed us, we asked about universities, and then they showed us like pictures of many universities. So then when I saw SFU, I was like, oh, it looks so green. And that's the only thing that I saw. And then I gave them my papers. That's the only thing that attracted me to SFU, was just like the green that they showed on those books. And then I applied, and immediately, like about 3 days later, they replied me and they said I had been accepted, which normally takes a bit more time. But then they had already accepted me. And then I called my dad and I told him, then he was like, oh, that's good, so let's move on with this plan.
Did you know where Canada was at that time?
I knew where Canada was, but I had never really thought about coming here.
Coming to Canada?
No, it wasn't in my plan
Was
at
the
all.
States at all in your plans?
No, I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I had no plan, actually.
All right.
Yeah, but then I guess this was God's plan. And then I started fixing my stuff, like getting my visa and everything together. But then for some reason, when I tried to apply for my visa, it took so much time. Like everyone else got their visa, but I had to like really pray to get my visa. Like my dad even had to pray, and he's not a Christian yet.
Okay.
But he even prayed. Like I found him praying in his room. So it was that difficult, but I got the visa and I came a week later after school. So I got to school, and that's when I met, like after a week or so, that's when I met Tash and all my other friends, Ashley, Lydia, Dion, and they're also from Zimbabwe. So I got to know them as well. And then once I got here, that's when I thought, oh, I don't have a church. I hadn't really thought about that. So then because I had carried like tons of spoken word books. Like in my suitcase, my dad was asking me why my suitcase was heavy. So I had hid them like underneath the suitcase.
So now you're a believer back home.
Yes.
Dad's not.
Dad's not.
Is your mom?
No, I don't have a mom. My mom passed on when I was young.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how long had you been a believer at home?
I have been a believer for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did the message come by your way there?
The message came, so I had been going to different churches. I went to all types of churches because I wasn't really, my family wasn't really strong Christians. It was more of, you can do whatever. So I used to go to church alone most of the time. And at times I would go with my family. But I went to so many different churches, Roman Catholic, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Methodist, all the types of Pentecostal churches. So if any of my friends would ask me to go to the church, I would go with them.
Okay.
And then So one day, my friend Rutendo, she's in Victoria now.
Right.
We didn't plan to come
Right.
together to Canada, but it so happened that way. But yeah, so Rutendo invited me to church because we used to live in the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, sure, I've been going to many churches anyway, so what difference would this one make?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the church, and initially I wasn't getting it. Like, it wasn't, like, I never came, like, you know, most people come, it's a huge revelation or anything.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really getting, I wasn't getting it, but I just felt to just keep on going. And at that time, honestly, I was just going because Rutendo was my friend.
Okay.
So I didn't want to disappoint her. So I kept going, but then she moved to a different country altogether, Botswana.
Oh, wow.
So now I was like, should I still keep going? You know, I was going for her, but now should I still keep going? Then I decided, okay, let me keep going. So I kept going, and then at that time, that's when my mom passed on.
Oh, okay.
So what amazed me, what really struck me about the people in the message was when my mom passed on, I was still new to the church, so no one really knew a lot about me. And then, but they all came for the funeral. Literally the whole church came for the funeral.
Wow.
So that really touched my heart, because I was like, these people don't hardly know me, right? What would make them come? And they were comforting everyone, and they were just helping out, and that really struck my heart.
Amen.
Was their lives. So that's one of the things that made me stay in the message, and then I kept going, and slowly God began revealing himself to me. And so that's how I came to the message.
Okay.
But like with time, I've been getting revelations. It's not like even about serpent seed, I only got that revelation like end of last year.
Okay.
But I just believed it. But
Right.
it's not like,
Right.
but it just came with time. So
When you decided then to come to Canada, did they give you the books to take with you, or?
yes. My pastor was even helping me pray for me to come to Canada, because as I said, the visa was hard to get. So he knew everything, and then he was praying with me, and he gave me the books, lots of books, lots of books. So I came with those here. And then now I was at SFU,
Right.
and I was looking for a church, right? So I emailed Voice of God recordings, because that's all I knew coming from home.
Sure.
I just knew that there was a Voice of God somewhere here. So I emailed Voice of God recording, asking them if there was a church somewhere near my area. So then they replied, and they gave me, no, Brother Milko actually replied. I think they got into contact with Brother Milko.
Okay.
And then Brother Milko replied me, and then he told me that there was Cloverdale Bible Way, but he would get me in contact with a Sister Rena. So then Sister Rena, I started emailing with Sister Rena, and we were discussing how I could get to church and transit and all these things. So she was actually my first friend at Cloverdale, because she came to get me from the SkyTrain station, and she took me to church. And so from then on, I would always go with Sister Rena.
Okay.
All the time, back and forth. She would take me to church, and so that was very good, and that was helpful. And even my friends would just be like, oh, Sister Rena. They didn't know, but they were just like, she's so nice to be taking me to church and stuff. And then I started coming to church, but at school I was the only believer living on campus. So that was very hard for me.
Sure.
It was like you had that atmosphere. Like each time I would sit in the sanctuary after church, I'll be just thinking, oh, I have to go back to SFU. Here there's such a pure atmosphere, but I have to go back to SFU where there's like this horrible atmosphere around, and people don't even know about God. And the one thing is, the devil had really purged my mind. Like, he was really attacking me. He told me that, you know, I wasn't a good enough believer to even witness about the message. So I never really did witness about the message. I knew many people. I would mention God in our conversations. Like, I would say, oh God, this. But then I never really said, God sent us a prophet, all
Right.
these things.
Right.
And I think, honestly speaking, I think at that time, I didn't have like a full revelation of who the prophet was.
Right, for yourself.
Yeah, for myself. And that's why maybe I didn't have the confidence to speak about it, because it wasn't a full revelation.
Sure.
So the devil would always tell me, you're not good enough. You can't even say anything about this message. What if you tell them and they don't believe you? What if you say something and that even draws them further away from wanting to know? So even I knew Tash, but I never really talked to her about the message. And I know when she came into the message, she was asking me, Anna, why didn't you tell me that there was a prophet? But she might have not understood, but for me, it was such a struggle. I wanted to say something, but I just couldn't, because the devil was holding me back and telling me, you're not worthy to say anything about God. And so, but one thing I did do, which was all I knew to do, was to pray. So
Right.
I was just really praying that the Lord would use me, or the Lord would make a way somehow.
Sure.
So all this time, that's all I did. I was just praying, and I was praying that, Lord, please make a way somehow. Please do something. Because I myself, I knew I had no power to do anything. And so...
So you're looking for fellowship.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was looking for fellowship. I was looking for some way that God would reach out to SFU as well.
Right.
Because I knew I couldn't do it. And so I was just praying that God would do something. And then I think it was Brother Dominic who let me know that there was a brother from Zimbabwe/Congo who was coming. So I was like, yay, my countryman
Right.
is coming.
Yeah.
So I was just so happy. So I was expecting, but then it wasn't really matching up with what I was expecting. God, are you even sure about this? You know, there'll be tension between the two churches. I don't want any tension. Out of the whole revival, those were definitely my best time. You know, she just came into the message, you know, and already she's facing so much. That means that the devil is not happy. You couldn't really see the fruits at that time, but God was already doing his work.